But I turned up at Pinehurst for an interview, and it must have been April, and it was a Friday, and it was 80 degrees outside. And I walked out, and I saw Thistledew, and there was music playing on the cradle. There was a little kid running across this putting green. People were drinking it, and I was just sort of taken aback. I was like, "Where am I?" Like I thought this was Pinehurst, and this is a thing that maybe you just have to be there to know, and it's impossible to really capture it. I remember that feeling so clearly of just thinking, "Wow, like what is this place?"
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Whole Story Podcast. Robbie and Jonathan here, and we are joined today by Matt Gibson. We'll introduce him here in a second. I want to give a shout out to one of the friends of the show, Western Birch. They're a good partner of ours. If you're looking for just high quality golf tees, I can't say it enough. It's hard to break them. I was actually out at Pinehurst this past weekend and finally broke one. Using an iron. So they do break, but they are extremely durable. You can get custom options with all the different colors and your logo on the stuff or on the head of the tees. So definitely go check out westernbirch.com. Lewis, great friend of the program, friend of Best Ball. Use Best Ball in the shipping cart, and you can get a little free gift with that. But very thankful for Western Birch and just, being a friend of the program. But yeah, Matt Gibson is joining us today. Let me give an intro. He's a photographer and videographer there in Pinehurst, North Carolina. If you follow the Pinehurst Resort Instagram account, you've seen his work. You can also find him on Matt W.U. Gibson on Instagram or MatthewGibsonPhotography.com. I interviewed Alex Podlegar last summer. I was able to be on site and interviewed Alex, and he was just raving about the work that Matt does. So it's a pleasure, Matt. Thanks for joining us on the Whole Story Podcast.
Thank you guys for having me. What an honor to be invited on. And I have to say, I listened to Alex's podcast as well. So I'm like acutely aware I've got big shoes to fill. So yeah.
Yeah, he basically gave us a membership to Pinehurst. I don't know if that was discussed in this deal, but that's okay. We'll get to that later after we're done recording. So before we get to the fact that you might have one of the coolest jobs that anybody that's interested in golf would be interested in, where did you start? When did you start picking up a camera and realizing that was sort of a passion you wanted to follow?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll give you like a bit of backstory about myself and like sort of how I got into golf, and the camera sort of like came along with me. I grew up in London, hence the accent, and people always get like quite confused when they hear that like the Pinehurst photographer or the guy who does a lot of the Pinehurst digital has an English accent. I went to university in St. Andrews, which was awesome. I wasn't really interested in golf per se growing up. In London, you grow up in the city, you're playing football, cricket, basically anything that isn't golf because there's not a huge deal of space in London. I went to University of St. Andrews for the academics. It's a great college, great university, and obviously it would have been rude to not play golf there. So that's not to say I didn't play in London, but I wasn't, sort of a golf sicko like I am now. And I moved over to America. I worked in news for a little bit as a video editor. I love editing videos. I sit in Premiere. It was my number one love. And sort of the byproduct of being a video editor is that you then also like, hey, I have this idea, I'm going to go shoot it. So I used to have a little sort of Sony Handycam. Growing up, my dad used to have a camcorder, so it's definitely something which kind of ran in the family. My mum went to drama school, so she worked for the BBC for a while. She was in TV. She still is in TV and production. So I guess it's kind of ingrained in me to an extent. And so I was always kind of shooting. I was looking for jobs in 2017 time, and my dream job, and still is my dream job, to be a Premier League soccer football commentator. And NBC had all the rights. to the Premier League, and I went, hey, I've got this degree from St Andrews. I wonder if I can get in at NBC Sports. And I went to Golf Channel. I moved to Orlando. I loved it. I was traveling around. I was shooting video, taking photos on the side. And I went to the PGA Tour very briefly. I was there for half a year, and I've been in Pinehurst for 3 years. I'm not sure I actually answered your question, Jonathan, which I've now realized. So the answer is I feel like I've always had a camera. The photography thing is probably slightly more new, maybe in the last 5, 6 years. But the video editing, video shooting, I've probably been doing for, as a hobby, maybe 15 years. I've been doing that, 20 years, I guess. Ever since I was a kid, I remember like playing around, messing around on cameras. So yeah.
Yeah, it sounds more like your family's more surprised you're involved in sports than you are in the fact that you happen to have a camera by your side the whole time.
Yeah, for sure. Well, my brother is an engineer and my sister works for a charity. So all three of us have done completely different things as well.
So I got to ask, maybe before we get on the golf thing, who's your Premier League team?
So this is like always a real big point of contention, actually. I'm a North Londoner and I'm a religious Liverpool fan. All my friends are Arsenal fans, or, we've got a group chat where I'd say 5 or 6 of the 9 of them are Arsenal fans. And so I think the way, sports fandom works, right, is you choose whoever your dad supported or whoever your family supports. My dad was never really into football. He didn't really care about it. And our best friends, our best family friends were all from Liverpool. So I remember growing up for Christmas, they got me a Liverpool shirt. And as I was growing up, that Arsenal team was incredible. It was the invincible team with Thierry Henry, and I felt like I couldn't switch allegiances because then you'd be like a glory hunter. And I also quite liked being the sort of weird one Liverpool fan in a sea full of either Arsenal or Tottenham fans. So it stuck. I'm a religious Liverpool fan. I've done sort of 20 years of mediocrity to now enjoy these last sort of 7, 8 years with Klopp. But yeah, so religious Liverpool fan. I've stopped letting it ruin my entire weekends when we lose. And now I only let it ruin sort of the morning. So that's a sign of maturity, I think.
There you go. Well, golf, I guess maybe if we'd have done this a couple years ago, we'd say there weren't that many rivalries in golf, but with Live and all that stuff, there are. But anyway, so you went to college in St. Andrews. That speaks for itself. Now you're at Pinehurst. Tell us about your love of golf. Why? How did that develop? How did that come about?
Yeah, I like I said, I didn't play golf a huge deal growing up, but I would go to the driving range and without this turning too much into a therapy session, my parents got divorced when I was young, and we would hang out with my dad once a week, and he would have us on Sunday, and we would go either to the cinema or go to the driving range, and that was a thing that we did with our dad once a week for years growing up. And I went to St Andrews, and I think that I don't know how you can't fall in love with the game when you're there. And I don't say I live in regret. I don't live in regret, but I look back and I'm now I should have played golf 7 days a week when I was there. And it's easy to say because, you become an adult and you don't realize sort of what you have at the time. And yeah, I was an undergrad and I was doing stuff and drinking and not playing golf. Now we went back last year, my wife and I went back, and it was really a cool full circle moment for me to go back as someone who has worked in the golf industry for however many years now, 7, 8 years, and be at this place that played such an important role, and really realizing that this is a place that some people who love golf will never go to. And I got to spend 4 years of my life there, and we went for a week for my best friend's wedding. And it was amazing. It was so good. I kind of got goosebumps just thinking about it. The place is so special. I don't know how you don't fall in love with the game there. I moved to New York and I didn't play golf for about 3 years because I could barely afford food when I lived in New York. So I didn't pick up a golf club for about 3 years. And then I moved to Orlando and was just playing. I love being outside. I feel like I'm someone who does that ethereal thing where they say, I'm trying to lose weight, and then doesn't actually do any of the stuff that you would expect to do to lose weight. One of the few things I love to do is I'll walk every round of golf that I play. I love being outside. I'll pop the camera on my hip, and then suddenly you never know what you get. And that's for me. I'm not like a huge hiking or like camping guy, but for me, I find so much peace and love just being outside. And you guys know the constant strive to get slightly better at this thing that you're constantly chasing and you know you'll never reach, which is amazing. But what's the old thing? The one pure 7-9 will keep you coming back for life. So
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I call it being outsidey, not being outdoorsy, because I'm not outdoorsy at all, but I like to be outside.
I
Um,
definitely agree with that.
so, talk about, because of the perspective, obviously, of being in the place, like you just said, so many golfers would love to go, and you live there. Talk about how that perspective changes the way you view Pinehurst, because you're in another place twice in your life, apparently. You're the lucky guy there, that is the golfing mecca that people would dream about going and being a part of, and yet you get to live it every single day.
Yeah, there's two parts to that. The first part is I'll say I don't think I realized how special Pinehurst was when I was interviewing for the job. I think golf in the UK is still a little stuffy, and hopefully I'm not ruffling any feathers or offending the entire UK. I realize I've painted with a very broad stroke there, but I turned up at Pinehurst for an interview, and it must have been April and it was a Friday and it was 80 degrees outside and I walked out and I saw Thistledew and there was music playing on the cradle. There was a little kid running across this putting green. People were drinking it and I was just sort of taken aback. I was like, where am I? Like I thought this was Pinehurst and this is a thing that maybe you just have to be there to know, and it's impossible to really capture it. I remember that feeling so clearly of just thinking, wow, like what is this place? And so the second part to the answer is I have a bad time. I'm sure we all do of like realizing that we have an awesome thing going in our lives. And look, I'll be silly to say that there are some days hits 5 o'clock and I go, I cannot wait to go home. I don't want to be here. I don't want to play golf because I want some separation of church and state. But the flip side of that is, I mean, there are days where I'll go out and play 12 holes of golf straight after work, and it's amazing and it's perfect. And I have a friend who he lives in Atlanta and he loves golf. He grew up on a golf course up in the sort of in one of the flyover states, or I don't know if it's supposed to call them that. And he was just standing there and he was like, I cannot believe they pay you to turn up here every day. So I'm very aware, and there's a really cool pace of life to it that every person that we're interacting with is either like retired or on vacation or just generally relaxed. And that's awesome. Like you don't come to Pinehurst and you're like stressed and bring that with you. You're like leaving that behind. And yeah, I have to remind myself because we all do because you get so close to it and it's your life. But I'm very lucky and yeah, like I said, there's definitely some delineation of church and state that I have to find because, you know, I'd love to play golf as well. So maybe on Saturday I won't bring my camera out because I'm like, hey, I'm not working, I'm just playing golf. So yeah.
So what does a normal day look like for you? Yeah, you do work there. What is a normal day? And when we were kind of setting this up, you're like, I'm busy a lot of times early in the morning and in the evening, which for those of us that appreciate golf photography know that those are ideal times to capture photos. Obviously, you can explain that better. But what does a normal day look like for you?
Um, I laughed as you were asking the question because I feel like it's a real
There's no normal.
yeah, I real like it's a corporate cliche to say no 2 days are the same, but like really no 2 days are the same because I make a lot of my own schedule, which is amazing. And the team above me let me run creatively with whatever I want to do. And Tom Pashley, who's the president of Pinehurst, appreciates what I do and will, for the most part, say like, "Hey, I really enjoy what you're doing, and we trust you." There's a level of trust which is amazing to have. So it's really what I want to make of it. This week is maybe it's a good example, maybe it's a bad example, but at time of recording, we're like 3 weeks away from the US Open. So there's a lot of shooting number two because I've shot number two a lot. but I haven't shot number two with the grandstands up. So it's a lot of building that library for the week of the US Open. If it's a shoot day, I'm probably up at 5 a.m., 4:30 a.m. to make sure that I've got the light. I'm checking weather forecasts and the stuff. And then the sort of maybe like less sexy part of my job is there's sometimes, like hotel room photos that need to be taken and things like that. But yeah, I'd say it's like not a perfect answer because every day is different. And there are days where I'm just in like 9 to 5 and I'm like sitting at my desk replying to emails or like editing a video, which I still love. But yeah, for the most part, it's not a traditional 9 to 5 in that the worst time to shoot is between 9 to 5. So I'll try and come in early and I'll be shooting early, or I'll say like, hey, you guys won't see me because I'm going to be shooting out late or something.
Well, and you just mentioned there are no necessarily normal days, but I'm assuming because of what's coming up in a couple of weeks, your normal days are going to be few and far between. So, having been there for 3 years, what does that look like on the inside in terms of how life has changed in Pinehurst for the last, say, 6 months as it kind of ramps up getting ready for the Open?
There's like the very obvious visual things that people will see like when they're here, right? So the cradle is now the driving range. And you see the cradle and you go, oh, there's a tree that used to be there and it's got taken out because, it would have been 20 yards away from where the guys were hitting. So there's like very obvious visual stuff which has changed. The massive 3,000 person grandstand on 18, you know what I mean? For me, I think the biggest change that I've seen in the last 6 months, year, is the stuff which had been planned before and it's all coming to fruition now. The hallway is brand new. The Carolina is now like completely renovated. The Carolina Vista Lounge just opened. So it's stuff which, unless you're here in Pinehurst every day, you actually wouldn't notice that it was different. And so for me, as someone who's here every day, I'm like, okay, well, I know that thing is changing in its construction, but maybe for you, Jonathan, you said you haven't been here for 3 years. A, we have to rectify that. And B, you would just be like, oh, this is a cool restaurant, or like the hallway looks different because I don't remember it from 3 years ago. But it's a lot of stuff inside. Yeah, like the hallway is done, the Carolina Hotel, the historic hallway is done there. So a lot of stuff's changing, and obviously, the Hall of Fame. As I'm saying it, it feels like there's about a million different things. But I would say it's the stuff which they had planned, and then they knew that they were going to be working on, which they wanted to be finished for the US Open. Those are the ones which, to me, are like, I wouldn't say more cool, but those are the ones versus like a grandstand, which obviously is just there for the US Open. But, the Carolina Hotel is now renovated for the future.
Yeah, I've never been. So if we want to rectify that, we can figure that out for sure. I've never been to Pinehurst. Robbie and his son got to go play last year. I had a work conflict, which I should have just quit my job. It'd have been a lot more fun to go play golf, but didn't have that option at the time.
Well, you mentioned the changes, and even then, yeah, being there last summer when I got to interview Alex, like walking down the hallway from, I guess, one of the entrance doors to the pro shop. So many different things that I didn't see the first time that they've added, and then you mentioned the new USGA Golf House Pinehurst and the Hall of Fame. How incredible those places are! I mentioned, I think online, like you could spend, if not hours, days going just to enjoy all those things. One thing that when I was here this past weekend, Joe, who is a member there now, took me through the members' locker room and up the little hallway, stepway or whatever to the first tee at Pinehurst number 2, and kind of said this is where they're going to have the players come out for the first tee. And I just, from someone that saw it, I don't know what, 9-10 months ago to this past weekend, there's been a lot going on. And then yes, like you were saying, grandstands and all that other fun stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting for us. We have the part of the job that I do, that Alex does, that Leah on my team does, is tell that story of like, hey, this thing is new, and this thing is here, and it's awesome. So the walkway from the locker room up to the first tee, we just shot a video, which we're doing that thing where we're a bear about to go into hibernation. We're sort of stockpiling all of our content for the week, but we have shot that, and I have an idea, and I have to work with the USGA, but I remember Joe Burrow's last game at LSU, they had this awesome tracking gimbal shot behind Joe Burrow, and he had, the Burrow was spelt the way that you spell it if you go to LSU or whatever. Again, you can tell an English guy talking about SEC football knows approximately zero. But showing that would be awesome for us. And, I wanted to do a tracking gimbal shot of a guy walking from the locker room, and to sort of, I won't say come full circle, but, my mum worked in drama and script development. I am a huge cinephile. I love my movies. I love looking at how people tell stories on camera, and something like a no-blink Hitchcock camera or something like that. I don't know if you've seen Birdman, the Michael Keaton movie. Those shots, I'm amazed by them. You put together what looks like a one-camera shot for 2 hours, and I don't know how you do that. And yeah, so, my brain starts spinning. How do we show that walkout from the locker room to the first tee? And then I'm like, well, maybe try it in a no-blink camera, and how do we block that? And is it even possible? It might not be possible, and it never comes to fruition, but it was in my brain at least, so yeah.
Well, you mentioned the football game and coming in. That's exactly what I thought. Like, I thought this would be like, and I'm a South Carolina fan, like coming out at Williams-Brice Stadium, the players running out, smoke, fireworks, whatever, coming up to the first tee or out onto the field. So you are by far more creative in actually how to figure that out. But yeah, that's at least one thought that ran through my mind of how y'all have it set up.
Can you get previous winners? So you go through the history of decades, and then the last guy popping up would be the guy who won last year? That'd be fun.
This is perfect. I'm going to hire you guys to be the creative team. This is good. I think we should turn this into an ideas meeting.
As it turns out, we're available the week of the U.S. Open. If you need someone to I can get water for people. I can, whatever you need me to do. I'll wash cars. It doesn't matter.
Matt's being very polite, but he hates when non-creative people are
throwing
ideas at him.
No, I'm being completely serious. You guys got this is a PSA to both you two and anyone listening that if you have content ideas you want, send them my way. We'll make them happen. Because otherwise, it's just the ideas of me, who's a madman, who's just trying to put stuff on people's screens. So yeah.
Well, I don't think you've missed yet, so you're doing a pretty good job. So what makes Pinehurst an ideal location for the USGA, and now having repeat USGA and obviously other championships there at the Pinehurst Resort in that area?
I think if you ask different people at Pinehurst, they'll give you different answers, and my answer probably won't fall into the perfect category in terms of maybe what Tom Pashley or Mr. Deadman might hear or want to say. Look, if you ask the agronomy side, and I think Alex might have spoken to you guys about this when you guys spoke to him, that I think from some kind of I don't even know what the word is, agricultural view, that it's one of the few places that can do it. There's no rough, so you're not trying to figure that difference out for that specifically in reference to sort of back-to-back opens. And then there's a heat element of it that, in the summer in North Carolina, it's really hot, so divots grow back fast. So there's you can dry a place out. It can get really hard really fast if you wanted. So that's I think if you asked someone on the grounds crew, that's what they'd say. If you asked someone from North Carolina, they would give you a different answer, and they'd say the people love their golf here, and that's completely true. It feels very much like a North Carolina special. The people are so proud. So as me, just a regular guy who has a camera who works for Pinehurst, my answer is going to be that the place is just so special. Again, I don't think I really realized the history of the place specifically. And you think about the RNA having the Open in St. Andrews every 5 years. Yeah, Pinehurst should be in the rotation for the US Open. It just makes sense. It's one of those things that as it happens, and it will happen now up until I think 2047, might be wrong, but up to, by that time, that's 23 years away from that. It's going to feel natural, and it feels right, and it feels natural that it's in this spot. So to me, it just feels like it belongs in Pinehurst, and maybe I've drunk the Kool-Aid. Maybe I haven't drunk the Kool-Aid, and it's right. And once you're here and you're in Pinehurst, you go, yeah, this like makes complete sense that this is one of the anchor sites for the US Open. The starters hut on number 2 has the plaque from St. Andrews. You see Donald Ross's house is on the 3rd hole of number 2. It's just such an amazing spot. And when you're here, like Robbie, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but like you're surrounded by it and you go, yeah, this feels right that the US Open is here. And that's not to slander the PGA Championship, but it's the US's national tournament. It's the US Open. It's hosted by the USGA. It's an American tournament. And yeah, it should be in.
Well, I was thinking earlier when you talked about, and I didn't know that you went to school in St. Andrews. So I'm sitting here thinking you came from the home of golf and now you work at the U.S. home of golf, right? And I think I've heard that moniker, that little phrase about the Pinehurst area. And exactly, I think it deserves to host multiple U.S. Opens. I think it makes sense. The one thing I like when you said, the town people might describe it as a natural, like we're friendly, like this is a place for golf. But, I sat in the roast office and had some coffee in the morning there in the town. And you just kind of walk around and you just see groups of golfers. Like everybody's there, like you said, retired or there to play golf. But they're all about, Joe and his wife moved down because he loves golf and wanted to be in that area. So it absolutely makes sense, I think, to be an anchor site. So I'm glad it's there. It's 2.5 hours for me. I can make it easy.
Yeah, it's amazing the amount of people it brings in who just love golf, and the amount of people who I meet who you say, hey, you from here? And they go, no, I'm from Philadelphia, or no, I'm from DC. And you say, how did you end up here? And they went, I came here once 15 years ago, and I went, I just never left. I came down here on vacation. I went back and I said, I'm moving to Pinehurst because you come here once and you go, yeah, this place is awesome. Why wouldn't I?
Well, with all the excitement, obviously in the city, on the course and everything, what are you most looking forward to this next week, or when the event occurs? Sorry.
Very selfishly, I'm excited. I'm someone who loves working, and my wife is in the next room and she's probably rolling her eyes as aggressively as possible. But I love it. I love being out shooting. I find so much thrill and joy in that. And I did an interview with a friend of mine. She's an amazing writer. And she was asking me about my creative process. And she asked me what my favorite part of the process is. And it took me like a second to answer. And I realized that my favorite part of the process is the actual end product. And I don't know if that's bad or not. But for me, I love having this thing which would not have existed if I was not there to have done it. And I love having these photos that now live on in history, or might live on in history forever. And so that for me, very selfishly, is I'm just really excited to get out, take photos. And it makes me sad when I hear locals or maybe Pinehurst staff going, yeah, I can't wait for the US Open to be over. It's like too busy. I'm like, what are you talking about? This is amazing. That you've got the best players in the world are going to be here. Rory McIlroy is going to be checking in to a hotel at Pinehurst, and you're telling me that you want this week to be over? Like, give me a break, man. I don't know how you couldn't be excited.
I live in Augusta, Georgia, and I feel the same way. The Masters comes around, and some of the locals are like, oh, I can't believe I wish they'd just not show up. I'm like, do you realize what it would look like if they didn't show up? This place is amazing. We should all be thankful that many years ago, someone built a golf course right here.
So what amazing! I didn't realize you're in Augusta. What an amazing place that is, right?
Yeah, right. Well, I don't know. Maybe Pinehurst is better. I haven't been to Pinehurst, so we'll make it up there at some point, and maybe we'll like try to pick one versus the other.
Jonathan, here's the difference I live right between, I'm in Columbia, I'm right between you guys. Here's the difference. I can drive to Pinehurst, I can go play number 2, where
That's right.
U.S. Open will be played in a couple weeks. I can drive to Augusta, and I can look through the gate for a second before they tell me to scoot on, get out of the way.
Not allowed to stop. You're allowed to slowly drive by. That's right.
Yep. So, I did have this one idea. I pitched it, in Robbie and Jonathan's big dreams, it's like, hey, maybe we can get media credentials, and part of the, hey, what would you guys do? I would love, just from a whole town perspective or spectator perspective, if we would have gotten on site, my idea would have been to walk around and talk to people about, give us your perspective, not capturing the players, not capturing the action, but like, tell us what Pinehurst and the U.S. Open being here means to you. And I thought that would be kind of neat. Again, sitting at the coffee shop, going to the Pinehurst Brewery and talking to the bartender or somebody at the hotel, like all the different things. So if you've got an extra camera and somebody to run around there, just hearing perspectives of people in the area, I think is a really cool, would be a really cool idea. Or maybe it's Robbie's idea that he thinks is really cool.
Yeah, I love it. And everyone, like, that's the way that people have marked time in Pinehurst. They go, were you here in 2014? Or what were you doing in 2014? Were you here in 2005? So it feels really cool to be part of 2024, right? Yeah, hey, yeah, I was here in 2024. So
yeah. So, besides the U.S. Open coming, another big thing has just happened at Pinehurst. Well, multiple big things. We won't talk about the World Golf Hall of Fame. I wanted to talk about number 10. I did drive out there and at least go into the shop and could see a little bit of the course from there. I had a friend, Brandon, that has just played it. You've obviously captured it on video and film. What are your thoughts of Pinehurst number 10?
how much time do we have? It's amazing. It's really, really, really outstanding. I have a real strong emotional connection to that golf course, which I feel is weird even coming out my mouth. I saw it from just being the woods. It was just it was just land. I don't know how else better to put that. To seeing the tree lines taken out, to seeing stuff cut away, to seeing sod getting put down, to it being a golf course which I could then like recognize as a golf course, to then being this thing which has evolved. A great example, I took a bunch of stuff in October before the grass went dormant, and I'm going to stockpile this stuff because I know it's going to open in April and people are going to want photos. And then I came back in April and it looks completely different. All the native areas were different. And I went, this is awesome because the course looks amazing, but it also sucks for me because I have to go and reshoot it. So the course itself is amazing. And again, this is opinion of one, and one who is so unbelievably biased because I was very fortunate to speak to Tom Doak. I spent a lot of time with Angela Moser, who I would now consider a friend. And I hope she would say the same, although if she were to hear that, she would ridicule me for even questioning that. And so that's like, it's cool the way the world works to be like, yeah, a friend of mine had her hands on this thing, and it's amazing to have seen it evolve. The course itself, like I said, is amazing. It's hard, but again, it's hard for someone like me who's not a particularly good golfer. Tom Doak said on the media day, it's similar to number 2 in that anyone can shoot 80 or 90 around there, but to break par around there is really difficult. So there's a stretch of holes. I love I love all 18 of them. The first 6 holes are amazing. Hole 8, I probably don't need to speak about because hole 8 has got so much traction and people have spoken about it so much. But there's a run of holes from like hole 9 through hole 14. Hole 9 is a 460 yard par 4 up a hill. Hole 10 is I think if you play it from the back tees, which I never would, I think it's like 610 yard par 5. Hole 11 is a par 3 and the green is so narrow. Hole 12 has this amazing green complex. And that's another par 5. Hole 13 is a 470 yard par 4 up a hill. And then hole 14 is a 240 yard par 3. And you're just like, what an amazing hard stretch of holes. And the perfect way to describe it is I think I've parred each of those holes, not all at the same time, obviously, but they're hard but incredibly fair. So someone like me can can pay them.
Yep. So you've been in the photography and videography industry for a while. I always like asking folks like yourself, who are some of the others that do what you do that you admire and respect their work?
It's another answer where I'll say, how much time do you have? There are so many amazing photographers and videographers. Um, Kojo is I think he's the lead photographer. I'm not sure if the lead photographer is definitely one of the photographers for Golfer's Journal, which is a publication I absolutely love. He is someone I look at every photo he takes and I'm studying, I'm looking at his composition, his colors. Christian Hafer is another one of the Golfer's Journal photographers. His stuff's amazing. Matt Matty Word Up on Instagram is the nicest, coolest, best dude I could ever hope to meet. And he's actually shooting for me at Pinehurst during the US Open. There are so many. Carl Walton is incredible, and he has Gimme Golf Club, and JP lives there and is an amazing. I could reel off thousands of people. Matty Junes lives in Raleigh. There's a bunch of amazing photographers. Ron Barnett, Zach Pisano are local guys. Billy Richards is Carolina Pines Golf. There are so many people who do so many specific things, and each of their stuff is amazing. And I like study everyone's work. I am obsessed with looking at other people's work, and because I'm constantly trying to learn and improve. And I find myself getting in a weird thing where sometimes I'll look at a photo someone else took and I'm like, I want to go do that, or I want to try and do that. And I'm also trying to, again, someone asked me what my style is, and I really don't know what my style is. But I guess at some point I do just have a style, because you look at an aesthetic and you go, okay, that was a coherent aesthetic. So I would ask someone else to maybe say like, oh, this is your style. And there are so many amazing photographers. And it's not just in golf. I'll say Andy Tutman lives out west. He is a nature photographer. He has done golf stuff before. I actually met him at Augusta, and we bumped into each other. And there are so many amazing photographers. I'm sure I've left thousands of people off that list. But I'll say, I guess, the one that I always think of is Kojo, and everything he does at Golf Journal is just out of this world. I can't figure out how he shoots it half the time. So
yeah. Well, that's the beauty of photography, right? For like you're studying it and you're a professional and you get it. For folks like us that are admirers of it, we can appreciate it kind of from a different angle. But yeah, Golfer's Journal, highly recommend for those that don't have it. I just, excited about the next issue coming out soon.
Yeah, mine always gets bent, and I've got I had to have a stern word with my mail carrier, and it literally says "Do not bend" on the thing. What are we doing?
Yep.
He probably has a really nice iPhone 15 Pro Max. That's probably what it is. If you'd get one of those, then, if you got a nice camera, that's all it takes, right? You just get a good camera and you're suddenly a photographer. Well, listen, you said that you're not a very good golfer, and then you listed, it sounds like 5 or 6 of the toughest holes at Pinehurst and said you made par on each of them. So you can't be that bad. But we always like to ask everybody on the show, what is your most memorable golf shot?
What's my does it have to be a shot that I hit?
No. Whichever one sticks in your brain.
I have two. One of them is mine. One of them is not mine. The one which is mine is 2 days before I got married. I played Pinehurst number 2 with my stepfather and my soon-to-be father-in-law, my now father-in-law, and one of my best friends. And Pinehurst on number 2, if you get a 2 on your card, then you get a little deuce coin.
Yeah.
And so I actually holed out from 150 yards on hole 11. So I got my 2-on-2 coin as an eagle, which was really cool. And I did it 2 days before I got married with, I don't know if I could have picked a better group of people who I'd want to be playing golf with. So I'd say that's I have a hole-in-one on the cradle, and I would say the best golf shot I've ever hit was the eagle shot. The one shot which really sticks in my mind is in St. Andrews. The first hole, the first tee is right next to the 18th green. And right in between the 18th green and the first tee is a set of stairs. I forget how many there are, maybe like 6 old stone steps to walk up to the clubhouse. And so the hall of residence that I was in first year, John Burnett I think there was like 150 people who lived in that hall of residence. So we were taking our annual like hall of residence photo on those steps, and there's 150 students. And the photographer was saying like, "Hey, you guys have to be quiet. You need to respect the people playing golf." And we said, "Yeah, of course." And I remember so clearly, I was sat in the front row, so I was like on the grass, and there are people still playing up on 18, and you've got 150 undergrad students, so everyone's like kind of being a little rowdy anyway. And this group's playing up, and thinking about it now, I'm like, God, that would have been stressful, like to have that many people. Anyway, this guy jams his approach shot hard left. He's got to be close to the first tee, and he steps up. He grabs his putter and he putts it from. He's got to be like I don't know 100 feet away, and this ball's rolling, and my eye is level to the ball because I'm right on the ground, and I just the ripple from the back row 6 steps up. Someone goes like, "That's really good," and it's just rippling down, and people are going, "That's on the right line," and I just see the ball disappear. And he birdies the 18th hole in front of 150 students, and everyone starts like cheering. The guy turns to us like fist pumping as if he's in the Ryder Cup. It was like the most memorable thing because he probably just hit the best putt of his entire life on the 18th of the old course and had 150 people watching. And we were celebrating genuinely like it was he had just made a putt to win the Open. It was amazing, and it's so cool. I would love to find that guy because I know he must have told every single person, and every single person he's told must have been like, "You are a liar. That did not happen."
I really hope the photographer who was getting your picture got a picture of all you guys looking or celebrating. That would have been awesome.
Yeah. So,
yeah, come on, Golf World. Listen, if you're listening to this, you got to share it. We need to find this guy, get him on the show, because we already know the answer to his question of his most memorable golf shot. Wow. That is awesome. Golf is so good.
Hey, golf friends. This is Robbie from Best Ball. Are you looking for the ultimate Myrtle Beach golf experience? Well, it's only a click away. Check out the 2-play special at 2 of America's most awarded public golf courses and 2 of my personal favorites. Caledonia Golf and Fish Club and True Blue Golf Club are low country masterpieces featuring 2 iconic Mike Strantz designs. Play these 2 incredible courses for one great price. Visit truebluegolf.com to learn more about the 2-play special and book your tee time today. That's truebluegolf.com.
All right, so we always do a quick 9, rapid fire. You can be as loquacious as you prefer or short-winded. So I'll start off. What is your favorite course to play at Pinehurst?
Ooh, good question. I'll say Pinehurst number 1. I love number 1. It's at the main clubhouse, and after work, if I ever want to play 9 holes or 18 holes, 3 and 5 are across the road. So, like I said, I love to walk. So I don't love the idea of walking over to 3 and 5, and then if I want to play 9 holes, they don't loop back round. So number 1 begins to loop back round after 10 holes. So if I want to play 9 or 10 holes, I can play 9 or 10 holes. There's a perfect loop. We call it the Matt Gibson loop. No one else calls it that because why would they? Where you play the first 10 holes of number 1, and then you can slink back past the halfway house and then play 17 is a 300-yard par 4, and then 18 is like a 460-yard par 5. So you play those 10 holes, and then you get these 2 awesome closing holes. And I always feel a little guilty because I've missed out on like the quite hard stretch of holes, and I get to play the 2 really fun closing holes. So number 1 is probably my favorite course to play, and probably the course I play the most. Wide open fairway, so I can spray it.
And if you get a 2 on the Matt Gibson loop, you get a deuce coin, and he'll take your picture.
That's right.
100%. Come upstairs in the main clubhouse at my offices, and I'll take a photo of you.
There you go. All right. We might already know the answer, but outside of Pinehurst, what's the favorite course that you've played?
Yeah. One of the St. Andrews courses, probably. I wonder if I should be like a little bit contrarian. I'll say the old course. Is that like a cheat answer? It has to
You've played it.
Oh.
You've played it. We haven't.
It has to be. You said, Robert, if you drive to Pinehurst, you can go and play Pinehurst number 2. I think the most amazing thing about golf and why I really fell in love with it, if you love football, you can't go play at Wembley. If you love basketball, you can't go play at Madison Square Garden. You can go play the old course.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is the most amazing thing.
What course is at the top of your bucket list?
Is it a cheat to say Augusta? I feel that's like the one which everyone wants to say. I would love to play Augusta. I've been a couple times, and the course is outstanding. I would love to do Bandon. I've never been over there. I hear the golf's amazing in Bandon. And is it possible to have a bucket list course which hasn't opened yet? Tom Doak is doing the new Cabot course in Scotland, which you've essentially taken, in my opinion, the best current golf architect, and he's going to build this amazing thing. So again, is that an insane thing to say? Augusta has to be right.
Hey, take all of them.
It's your bucket list. Yeah.
Right.
All right. So who would be in your dream foursome? I know you mentioned the guys that played with you prior to your wedding, but who would be in your dream foursome?
Good question. Dream foursome. I guess I'll give two answers because it's my dream foursome, and
sure.
We're playing fast and loose with the rule. My dream foursome would be the foursome that I played before my wedding. It was perfect. And if you said you could play one final round of golf, that's what I would want it to be with. But then, like, the flip side of that is if I could play a round of golf with, like, Tiger, yeah, Tiger's obviously in there. I myself, I have to be in the foursome. I took photos for Mr. Nicklaus last year and his team, and I really, really, really think that I had done a disservice in my own brain understanding how amazing he really was. I didn't watch golf, obviously, when he was playing, and I grew up watching Tiger, and I was very much of the Tiger is the greatest of all time. And it's not an argument that I think people need to have or people want to have it. I'm like, whatever, it doesn't matter to me. But I definitely had understated in my head how much Mr. Nicklaus had achieved, and hearing him talk about golf was one of, like, the great privileges I've ever had in my life. You could just hear how much he loved golf and how much he thought about every single golf shot, every single golf hole. He could talk for hours about it. So, I mean, could I have gone more obvious? I've gone Tiger and Jack. Let me try and choose someone a little rogue then. Maybe like, I don't know, like a Tommy Fleetwood. I love Tommy Fleetwood. I think he's an awesome golfer. Seems like a great dude. I've only interacted with him a couple of times, but he seems lovely. So yeah, maybe Jack, Tommy.
He's my spirit animal. I've been growing out my hair for a year, hoping at some point he needs some sort of body double, and I'm ready to go.
It looks excellent, may I say.
So on the Matt Gibson loop, what is your favorite snack for maybe your 8th hole before you close out on the last 3?
What's my favorite snack? I like a good nut on the golf course, like a spicy nut.
Ooh, spicy one.
Pinehurst has some of those.
Yeah, or a Cliff Bar. Yeah, I'm not a big. Can I say beer? Is that a snack?
Absolutely.
Yeah, beer. But beer only on, like, I'm trying to not drink beer until I get to, like, the 14th hole. You know what I mean? I'm trying to pace myself a little bit.
All right. Maybe we'll take the Pinehurst logos out of the running on this, but what's your favorite golf course logo?
My favorite golf course logo? That's a great question. I love some of the new Bandon logos. The Shorties logo is fantastic. I love the old Barnwell logo, actually. That's my answer. I love the old Barnwell logo. That's amazing. And actually, I'll say the Augusta National Women's Amateur logo is outstanding. I love that logo, and on a shirt, it looks fantastic. So one of those ones for sure.
Old Barnwell is definitely a great logo.
Yeah. What's your favorite location on the Pinehurst property?
Ooh, favorite location?
Besides your office, in case your boss is listening to you right now, because you
Of
love to
course.
sit at your desk. Yeah.
What's my favorite location? Deuce Veranda. If I'm on vacation or if someone comes in to visit me, I would just say, "Hey, let's go sit on the Deuce Veranda." Like they say, "What are we gonna do?" I say, "You're just gonna watch people play 18, and we're gonna have a couple beers, and it's gonna be awesome." And they go, "Are you sure?" And yeah, that is one of my favorite spots. Or first hole of Thistledew, because I love Thistledew so much. I could play that putting green for hours.
I completely agree. When my son and I were there last summer, they had just sanded it, part of the maintenance and upkeep. So this past weekend, I got to play number 3 with Joe on Saturday, but I got out there early and I played Thistledew, and it was amazing. Like, absolutely loved it. I have been over to St. Andrews, did not get to play any golf except for the Himalayas, so it was kind of neat to see those two compared to each other.
Yeah.
All right, when the last group walks up on 18, Sunday of the U.S. Open, where will you be?
Okay, I'll be by the green, and I'm trying to like not give away my spot.
Okay, I understand. I almost didn't ask this question. Yeah.
Trade secrets. Trade secrets.
Yeah, because I like planned where I know think the pin's gonna be, and I'm like working under the assumption that if someone's playing smart, I've based it off where I think they will be putting from, and then where they subsequently will celebrate. All of that to say is I very easily could have overthought the whole thing, and they missed the putt, and then they've got like a 2-footer coming back the other way, and I'll be in the exact wrong spot. But such is the way of life, right? So I have a spot in mind. The but is I might try and get on the roof of the clubhouse, so we'll see if I can get on there.
There you go.
You probably have the credentials. I'm assuming you've got like at least some sort of pass that will
He knows a guy.
Yeah. All right, we're going to put you on the spot. Who do you think will win the 2024 U.S. Open?
I'm going to try and like not go crazy here, and I'm going to say Scottie Scheffler. I saw him play at Augusta, and he's played the best golf that I can remember seeing anyone play. He's incredible. Scottie Scheffler. I will say Max Homa's swing in person was so effortless that I couldn't quite believe it. And I think there's a world where someone like Max Homa could make a very decent charge. But I'll say Scottie Scheffler because he played the best golf of any professional golfer that I can remember. And that's taking into account, when Rory was dominating, when Spieth was dominating. We were talking, is Scottie going to win? He won the Players and the Masters, and he had that stretch where you were just like, can anyone beat this dude? And then it felt like he almost tried to not win. Was it Texas where he didn't win? Because, no one wins 4 in a row. Yeah, he won Augusta by 3 shots in the end or something? So 4 shots? I don't know. I can't remember.
Yeah, Scheffler versus the field isn't a bad bet, so...
Yeah. Well, we've had a lot of people pick or tell us Scheffler or Max Homa. I think mainly because at Pinehurst, you got to know which 3-foot circle to miss it in or to land it in. And I think those guys have really good control of their balls. So, but Matt, this has been a lot of fun. We'd love to maybe play some golf sometime with you. But if nothing else, we'll come sit on the veranda there and have a beer and watch people play golf. But we appreciate you joining us today.
Perfect. Thank you guys for having me. What an honor.
Absolutely. Well, it's been a lot of fun. Hope you guys appreciate it. Go follow the Pinehurst Resort and Matt Gibson on Instagram. We'll be sure to put links in the show notes for all of this. But for Matt and Jonathan, this is Robbie. You guys have been listening to another episode of the Whole Story Podcast.